This baby is looking in the mirror, smiling mischievously. It turns out he is taking a beautiful selfie like this. In the future, he will probably be very popular with girls, next to his father. His mother also had a hearty laugh because the kid was so cute. Then, just waiting for his mother to kiss his cheek, wishing him good night, he started to throw the blanket, landed softly on the ground. Then he passed by where his mother was washing dishes, without making any noise. He went straight to the library, his hand still not forgetting to make the gesture of a winner. The kid wants to use it to learn about this world. Here is a continent of intersections, including the 3 strongest kingdoms: elves, dwarves, and human demons. The kid is so different because he remembers the memories of his previous life. He himself used to be the strongest emperor of the empire, ruling countless kingdoms. What he is most interested in here is magic that is used with mana. Different from his previous life, people usually use it to increase strength, body intensity, and the amount of mana, whether small or large, is mostly due to inheritance. According to the sensing technique of his previous life, he has successfully sensed mana and is still planning to try it when he was discovered by his mother. Just looking at it can recognize that the kid has defecated. His pants start to pretend to be stupid, thinking that he will become the first wizard in the future, so there is no need to pay attention to this detail. He also blames it for being too focused just now, but defecating is really embarrassing. But then time passed quickly for 2 years, and through books Arthur learned many interesting things. He was still watching his father gardening and clearly using air magic, which was also impressive. But the result did not make him disappointed either. He even turned towards him with a very cool look, and there were a few stones that only needed to be picked up but still used drought magic right away. Through his training method, he saw that he was a martial artist, and moreover his fighting skills were not ordinary. Perhaps his parents were just hiding their profession, and maybe he himself was the son of 2 heroes or some great wizard. Thinking about it, Arthur's face was already greedy. At this time he intended to read books, but how did Leo get up here just now? Looking at the fox scared her mother always asked, trying to get Leo down. Her mother still thought he was sleepy and squinted, finally had to rely on a cute appearance, and begged her mother let him play for a while, although the appearance just now was a bit embarrassing. But a true warrior must take advantage of all advantages. This cuteness is no exception. Arthur is learning to feel the formation of mana core. It took him 2 years to do it, but still not successful, because normally at puberty people can form mana core. This is very difficult, a challenge for both mind and body. Suddenly there was an explosion. Their house exploded. His father realized that his son was still inside. Regardless of danger rushed over. They had to panic at the sight. Before their eyes Arthur was floating in midair. He had successfully awakened mana core. A year later their house was finally rebuilt. Along with that he was taught by his mother how to read and write. His father taught mana strengthening mana core. He even gave him a wooden sword as a gift when he turned 3. In this world, strength is measured by the color of mana core in order: black, red, orange, yellow, silver, and white. Each stage is divided into dark, deep, and bright. Because of this matter his parents argue fiercely. His father wanted him to go study magic in a big city to control mana, because that power in one body of 4-year-old child would be very dangerous. His mother did not want to be away from him. His father directly asked for his son's opinion, which made him speechless. Deciding for himself at 4 years old seems a bit hallucinatory. Then he called for his parents to go see the teacher together and laughed happily. This way can solve arguments. After that, the whole family prepared to go to Cypress City. The next morning, they set off and would travel with their father's old friend. On the way, they encountered many monsters, but they were easily dealt with by them. The warrior at this time was bored and impulsive, wanting to play with Arthur. Because he heard his parents say that he was a genius, he had the spirit of a big tiger, making Arthur also a little scared. Looking towards his grandfather for help, he was still cheering him on very enthusiastically. At this time, he also had to play for real, showing the strength of a king, moving very fast and rushing up, surprising his opponent. Taking advantage of his small body to easily dodge attacks, then using a side charge. The red-haired guy was completely suppressed and could not control himself, but released mana power to knock him away. At first he thought the kid was soft as noodles, but who would have thought that he was even better at swordsmanship than him? His mother also had to panic and ask where he learned that fighting style from. Arthur started bragging that it was from books and secretly watching his father practice. But that fighting style is only available to veterans who have been away from the battlefield for a long time. How can they believe it? Next had to be a little bit of a show-off, but no one could understand it. Just like that, several days passed. Arthur turned 5 years old and received a birthday gift from everyone as a small sword. They were walking, suddenly alert of robbers. The sorceress immediately used wind magic to create a shield to protect them from arrows. The whole team was ready to fight, but the number of robbers was also very large. They were surrounded. Arthur was preparing to fight. His mother still thought he was scared and hugged him. Their battle was very busy. Everyone had to face countless bandits, but the coordination between them was very harmonious and their strength was not ordinary. They were shot down like that. The situation gradually became dangerous when everyone's strength was exhausted. The enemy was still very crowded, and the leader of the robbers was not an ordinary type, who could injure his father. He now told Arthur to take his mother away while he would stay behind to hold them back. Although he really wanted to stay and fight with them, his father carefully instructed him to help him protect his mother and the baby in her womb. It turned out that these days her mother often felt tired because she was pregnant. Arthur promised his father that he would protect his mother. They wanted to target his mother because she was the only recovery of the team. The attack was blocked by teammates, but the archers on their side shot arrows straight here. Arthur felt danger, had to use a wooden sword to block, then continued to lead his mother to escape. He now realized something was wrong. They had 4 wizards, but only 3 appeared now. One guy is hiding on the mountain cliff. A big magic hit. He had to push his mother away directly to block the big magic, then used mana rope, pulled him down into the abyss with himself. Even if he died, he would not regret it because his mother and brother were safe. That afternoon at the bottom of the abyss, Arthur woke up. He hadn't died yet, but his body was severely injured, unable to move, and the enemy had fallen dead. Seeing a berry on the ground, he could only crawl over and put it in his mouth, then passed out again. The next morning when I woke up, I finally had some strength. My body could move. Arthur didn't know where he was, just going to that guy's body, pulling back a small knife for self-defense. Suddenly a voice rang out, "Are you awake?" It's him who has to drown himself, panting. Isn't it? That robber isn't dead yet. Carefully checking, the mysterious voice rang out again, wanting to know who he is. When you get to his hideout you will know. He also said he was the one who saved you in that fall and is the only one who can bring you home. Thinking of his parents and baby in her womb, Arthur changed his attitude respectfully. "May I bother you? Help me find my way to meet you." He even knew his name. After that, he used magic to guide him to his place. After half a day of hard work, he finally found a cool stream. This time he was saved. Arthur took off his clothes and jumped down to bathe, and the mysterious voice rang out again, "The kid is really carefree, isn't he peeking at me?" Arthur had to immediately cover his lower body, but she shouted, "What's there to cover? The dignity of a king like you." It sounds a little heartbreaking. But the next day, following the instructions, he went deeper into the forest and finally reached the place of the mysterious person. She was in a cave. Arthur carefully entered but fell down. It was dark, but then he saw someone and was scared to death. The mysterious person had a large body and a very scary appearance, like a demon. She told him that it would take some time to create a large enough space crack to be able to go home. Then she pointed to the special fruits that could help him survive until the formation was written. He did not hesitate to taste it in order to return home. She also said that her name was Syria, and the two also talked to each other and forgot their fear. This is the area between Bitcoin and the Elf Forest. No one knows. This is where he is also the first person to set foot here, and said that she had gone through countless battles, which is the reason for the wounds on her body. It is the price of freedom, and the reason she saved him was also because she was touched by the spirit of sacrifice for others, or perhaps because she was too lonely here. She also said that she saw his family leave safely, which made Arthur cry with joy. So they lived together for a whole week. Most of the time, both of them talked very happily and became close. Don't look at the scary appearance outside to judge. Syria is actually very kind, gentle and warm like his mother. Arthur also felt that her wounds were getting worse so that he wouldn't worry. She just said normally, "It's always like that." Syria also noticed that he was a genius and could control mana even at such a young age. Next, she taught him how to meditate and absorb mana while moving as well as while fighting. This made him very excited. Practicing this skill requires both normal combat and maintaining a steady flow of mana in the body. This is very difficult, but with his efforts he finally succeeded. Suddenly at this time Syria fell down. He immediately ran to her. What happened? Her wound was bleeding non-stop, and the only reason was to open a space gate for him because she was too kind for him to sacrifice herself. Tears fell involuntarily. Syria's time was running out. Her body was now shattered, turning into a white dragon. Only in this form can Syria complete the space gate to help him, and also because of that people will soon come to her. Before saying goodbye she gave him a small egg and also gave him one of her feathers. It will help hide the glow of the egg, then transmit into his body an immense source of power. An explosion. Their rock cave was destroyed. Syria had to hold him in her arms to protect. The last thing, Syria apologized to him, because she deliberately prolonged the opening time of the space gate to be near him. Even though Arthur tried hard to pull her along with him, it was impossible. Her tears fell. If she went with Arthur he would definitely be in danger. Then directly pushed him into the space gate. He also called Syria grandma as she wished. Opening his eyes again, Arthur was outside the forest. He knew he would never be able to see her again, but memories of 4 months with Grandma Syria just passed. Nothing left in his mind, but it was a long time, but only fleeting. She had seen him as a family, and suddenly he heard her voice. It turned out that she had transmitted her will as a farewell gift to him. If he could use it, he would become the strongest wizard. Her only wish is that you enjoy happiness like any other child and become a man forever. Your parents and I can be proud when your mana cord turns white. You will receive my last message. By then I will explain everything. Goodbye, Skinny King. Arthur immediately froze. She knew his identity in his previous life. Although there are many questions, he can only become stronger to get the answer. At this time, he ran forward very fast, determined that he was deep in the Elsa forest. Like Syria's mana transportation technique, he could move much faster than before. This guy then heard a girl's voice nearby and immediately ran over. It turned out that an elf girl was being kidnapped by slave traders. He really wanted to bleed with them, but the enemy had 4 guys. First of all, they still have to follow them and wait for an opportunity to act. That night was the time to act. He carefully distracted one guy and then applied the technique from his previous life, turning his hand into a mana knife with terrifying speed and rushing towards him with a fatal blow. Arthur got the dagger from him and his body was also processed by wolves pulling the car. Another guy saw his teammate not coming back for a long time and also ran here. Immediately defeated by Arthur. At this moment, the elf girl in the car saw him and screamed in fear. The 2 remaining slave traders were awakened by this. Arthur quickly attacked him with lightning speed and slashed him once. His legs were severely injured and he also sensed and shouted loudly, "Be careful, that kid is a wizard." The leader's face at this time became scary. Releasing mana, it seemed that the kid in front of him was worth more than her elf sister. He would never let her go. His speed was also very fast, already behind him, constantly rushing towards him. But Arthur's speed is not slow either, directly punching him once. In addition, his mana-controlled knife was caught by him. Your tricks are cute too. So I'll give it back to you. His speed got even faster, rushing towards, kicking him away. One of his legs was caught. Surrender, you can't do anything with that small body. At this time Arthur condensed mana into his hand, creating a big explosion causing his hand to be disabled, then quickly took advantage of the opportunity while he was still unaware of a sword to deal with the remaining guy, who then went crazy begging for mercy. But have they ever spared anyone else death? Without doubt. The elf girl was still scared, but seeing his warm smile she cried, finally able to go home after removing her blindfold. She was indeed very beautiful, but our main character still had to go home, so she said goodbye. She started eating and begging with her eyes, "Don't leave her alone here." Arthur had to reluctantly refuse. Isn't it safe for elves in this forest? She shook her head vigorously. My parents said that children will be eaten by hunting dogs or tree golem monsters. It's troublesome. At least you have to remember how to get home. She didn't know either. Well then, Barrett, stay here. Her face was shocked. I'm just going to find some food from the pile of stuff left by the slave traders. Arthur found quite a few supplies ready for his return home. Unfortunately, the carriage was destroyed. First we have to take that girl home. On the way he learned that her name was Tesla. She also told him that human men are all perverts with many wives, making him speechless. He is a very loyal person. His heart is only for 2 or 3 people. On the way, they talked very happily, and when they went to bed, they actively called him into sleep, to keep warm. But Arthur is a cold boy. How can he be tempted? She called out. For the best safety, we should still be together. Say it if you're afraid. In the end, we still had to sleep in the same tent. A few days later, his Manticore had a problem. The pain was so unbearable that he almost couldn't bear it. Day by day, the pain became more intense. He could only hide from Tesla so as not to worry her. That day, Tesla suddenly realized something. It was the sign of the elf clan, and finally they arrived at the elf kingdom. Arthur followed her through the space gate to get there. This place was indeed very desolate. Everyone was staring at him in confusion. How could a human be here? A wave of wind magic power rushed over and a group of guards knelt down to welcome the princess back. This guy was then stupidly realizing that Tesla's identity was actually the princess of the elf clan. The king and queen also quickly arrived here, as well as her grandfather, former King Virion. At this time he pushed the princess gently and ran to his family, seeing them happy. He secretly thought of his parents. What would they be like? The king bowed his head and thanked him not only as a king but also as a father. This is a small favor to express gratitude for helping Tesla return home safely. Come to our place. He couldn't do anything else. Tesla also ignored everyone and directly took him on a tour of this place. They quickly arrived at the palace. Compared to the outside, this place looked very modern. Next, Arthur recounted everything for them. He told his journey, starting with a vague explanation. I was separated from my family after encountering robbers from Mac King. After hearing about slave traders, he immediately became angry. After knowing that he had personally dealt with them, they were even more shocked. A guard directly drew his sword because he thought he was lying, but he was corrected by Tesla's grandfather. Arthur also said, whether people believe it or not, anyway, Princess Tesla has returned safely. Now all I want is to return to my family in the Kingdom of Spain. The king agreed to grant him a favor as thanks for saving Princess Tesla's life, but the transfer gate to the Kingdom of Spain can only be used once every 7 years. However, he will send an escort team to take him home. After many days of eating dust and dirt, finally he was able to take a proper bath. At this moment his Manticore pain became even more severe. Shortly after, Tesla also came here. Without saying anything, she hit him once. It turned out that she was still angry because he wanted to leave. Tesla took him on a tour of the palace garden. This is her favorite place. The glowing fireflies looked very beautiful. Suddenly someone rushed over with a murderous aura. Arthur easily blocked it. The person who made it was none other than her grandfather. Great reaction and technique, but don't think that catching my gift and using it against me. The kid's man operation is good, so I can imagine how he killed those slave traders. The reason he came here was also to see how capable he was. Arthur used a wooden sword to fight him, but the old man didn't give way to the kid at all, directly evaluating the force to knock him away. Although he used mana to reduce excess movements, he still couldn't keep up with his speed. He took the opportunity to turn around in the air to attack. The result was still knocked away, but anyway he could hit the old man once. The princess saw him injured, then her hateful eyes looked at her grandfather and told him not to bully him. Then she called him to become her disciple, which made Arthur a little silly. Humans will not be welcomed here, he called again, now calling for a way to contact his family. I can't ignore it when I realize that there is a problem inside the kid, the pain inside the Manticore, right? And more frequently. Next he asked if he knew what beast power was. It was the power that Syria gave him, It was extremely dangerous, and he was called a monster tamer. Of course there is also beast power. Besides saying that the beast power inside him is too strong, this small body seems unable to bear it. If it is not controlled early, that power can destroy him from the inside out. The next morning he was still sleeping in bed and dreamed of a monster pressing on him. When he woke up he realized it was Princess Tesla. It turned out that she was told by her grandfather about the matter. You will stay here for a while, so she ran over. The king was still calling father to keep Arthur in the palace, which went against tradition, but he didn't care, and Tesla also agreed with this, nodding her head vigorously, then called for the king to inform everyone Arthur will be his official disciple. They set off to meet one of his friends. The little princess fell asleep because she had to get up early to find him. As the only princess of the kingdom, she was always lonely. She had been hurt too much by both adults and children pretending to be her friends, so she became cold and distant, building an invisible wall around her. But during the time spent with him she laughed a lot. He also thanked him for being with his granddaughter. Finally they arrived at their destination. Arthur was also very curious about what kind of person this friend of his master was. He kicked hard at the door and shouted loudly, "Old witch, come out for me." Inside, an old woman came out with a very angry face. Through introduction, this is Julia de Castan, an old friend of mine and also a special Davian. She can help that person. He also greeted her very politely. "We don't have much time, don't stand outside anymore, come in." At this moment he thought Devon was like his mother, those who possessed magic not belonging to 4 basic elements. She is a prophet who will help him contact his family. Then she said, "Focus on looking at the water bowl in front of you and imagine images of your parents as detailed as possible, and when you see them in the water you will be able to talk to them." At this moment he could see their image. Their faces had become much thinner than before. And the food on the table is Arthur's favorite dish with his father. "Your brother is still safe in your mother's womb." Suddenly they heard his voice. Their bodies trembled and dropped their spoon while eating. He informed them still alive and very safe now in Elena Kingdom. "I wish I could go to my parents, but now it's a bit difficult. It seems like I have a disease that needs treatment and I can talk to my parents thanks to this old prophet here. Mom and Dad love you both." At this moment their emotions were overflowing. The son who was thought to have been lost when he fell into the valley was still alive. They hugged each other and cried in happiness, and Arthur here was also crying. They then returned to the palace, where the king also apologized to Arthur for being a bit stubborn. "You are not only the savior of my daughter, but also the first disciple of my father. Let me welcome you again," in a more polite way. At this moment, Tesla ran over and called out, "If he wants to apologize, let them go out to play. I want him to see the city." The king and queen both looked stupid. On the street they accidentally ran into a spirit man. He immediately turned around and called him dirty. "I have to purify you." What kind of face does Arthur have? Does his grandfather want to fight? He even pretended, "Just because Elder Syrian is next to you, do you arrogantly think that this place belongs to you?" He just wished he could punch this brat. He even turned to Tesla and called him a commoner, allow Fortavisa's second disciple to escort him instead of him. At this moment Arthur also played along with him, namely Deputy General Ivisa, but clearly the pronunciation became a stupid name, making him very unhappy. At this moment he picked up a piece of paper and threw it down. "For the pride of the Ivisa clan, challenge you." Tesla wanted to stand up for him, but that guy was also a very smart human except for a duel or tuck-tail. Choose and remember that your decision will also reflect on your master. Clearly unable to refuse this battle, the princess will be their referee. After she shouted loudly, the battle began. Ford immediately rushed up with his magic wand, but how could he be knocked away by a punch from Arthur thinking he was strong? That day they had a lot of fun playing, and tomorrow they will officially start training. The master also told him the process of synchronizing beast power will be very painful. If you can't overcome it, it means death. He was not afraid of it, but even more excited because if successful he would be even stronger. So 3 years passed and both he and Tesla had grown up a lot. Only this sister grew more beautiful as she grew up. Just waking up using mana made him hurt. And her grandfather had been waiting for them for a long time. High-level elements including ice, gravity, light, sound can only be achieved when a wizard has overcome grasping his basic element, and each race will have different strengths and weaknesses. Tesla awakened her power when she was only 9 years old. Normally the spirit race had to be over 10 years old to do this, so she followed her grandfather to learn skills, becoming a wizard. Unlike Arthur, what he has been doing in these 3 years basically is merging bones, muscles and internal organs with mana. Not physical training like her, but after merging his body will be stronger than even veterans. He started the fusion process, burning his mana core by transmitting a huge amount of his mana into it. Arthur felt terrible heat in his body and made a shocking sound. His body exploded like flying away. That power made even his master panic curiously. The beast gave him this power after knowing that it was a dragon. He seemed stunned by the unbelievable appearance. This must not be revealed, otherwise their world will have a storm. The next day he informed him about the departure date for returning home, which had been set in 4 months' time. A tournament between young people from 3 kingdoms is underway and finally approved. The information gates in Cyrus City of Sapin will open for both Elena Kingdom and Daf Kingdom during this time. A moment later, he noticed that the egg he was carrying showed signs of cracking. Inside was a cute black dragon. The two fools looked at each other stupidly, and he even asked if it was a dragon, but who knows? Next, the baby bit directly into his hand. The wound turned into a circle symbol. At this moment Arthur heard someone calling him mother. It turned out that after biting the little dragon, he could communicate telepathically with him and even saw him as his mother because he saw him first. Arthur then called it his father because he was a man. Next, he named it Syavi, similar to its mother's name. He seemed to feel that the little dragon liked this name very much. It seems that the symbol on his hand has connected them. That night, while he was still sleeping, he suddenly heard a loud scream. It turned out to be the little one. Tesla found the little dragon here. Its cute appearance made her unbearable. The next day they brought Syavi to see their grandfather. As soon as he saw him he was immediately shocked. It was a real dragon. Normally dragons only hatch in front of their family members, but the fact that it hatched in front of him, the only reason is that yesterday it activated its mother's beast power. He also couldn't reveal its identity, just pretending it was a mana beast. Arthur's mana core has been activated. From now on he will have to learn how to fight. His grandfather at this moment turned into a beast master form, possessing the power of a night leopard. His speed at that time was too fast. When he couldn't detect his presence was behind him. From when with that speed he gave up, let the old man play hide and seek alone. Later on he had to train him normally. The days passed faster and faster with him completely immersed in training through his master's guidance. He has almost entered the initial stage. The desire of the dragon also taught him how to hide his anger from the beast inside him in front of wizards. The final departure date has arrived, which is very difficult for Tesla. The princess cried a lot. At parting his master gave him a necklace inlaid with Eric's skull and could help him navigate through the forest. He even teased him to find another princess to take home and was pulled by Tesla by his beard, just joking. They said goodbye with a warm hug. I will miss you very much. Take care of your health, Tesla. And on the carriage he met for Thai Visa again, who hadn't changed at all, but he couldn't recognize him because he was too vague. This guy started shouting his name loudly. Arthur didn't want to fight either, sorry for bullying him before. They are chosen by the people of the kingdom to participate in the competition between 3 kingdoms after a few days finally arrived. This is Cyrus City, finally home. This is a large estate. When he knocked on the door an old woman ran over. There's also a cute little girl that is his sister Eleno. Mom also ran here when she saw him. She couldn't hold back her tears, rushing to hug Arthur in her arms, and his father at this moment also immediately ran over, hugging Mom and son, crying. This is the moment they have been waiting for a long time. No one can hold back their tears, just crying loudly. Parents asked him many things, and Sister Elena was also told about him through bedtime stories by her mother, so she loved her second brother even more. They talked for a long time. Arthur recounted his entire journey except for Siria's story because it would bring danger to them. His illness has also been cured. His father, seeing this, wants to know the true strength of his son, and even boasts about himself, being the captain of the Healthy Auction House Guard, and his mana core broke through 2 years ago and entered the deep orange core stage. This made him a little surprised. Maybe he had been training hard or not. After knowing that he was light red, Mr. P was stunned for 2 seconds because he was too shocked and didn't believe it, calling him out to fight with him. At this moment, his father's 3 friends ran over here. He was the one who always helped his family. Vincent is the operator of the Healthy Auction House, and this is also their home. His daughter, Lilia, is also about the same age as him. When she saw the handsome guy, she couldn't help but rush up, meaning to say that the cute dragon was not the main character. Next, he and his father went out to compete. His father's friend, when hearing that Arthur's mana core was light red stage 3, couldn't believe it. Because even the geniuses at Cyrus Academy haven't entered the dark red stage yet, and they are also 10 to 23 years old. Arthur with overwhelming speed attacked, but his father also reacted very quickly, easily breaking his throw. Seeing how strong his son was, his father then had to use mana with both hands emitting fire, and at this moment Arthur's whole body also emitted light. Everyone had to be surprised. This was a power beyond basic elements. His speed was terrifying. Mr. attacked. The 2 fathers and sons were fighting fiercely. They couldn't underestimate Arthur's opponent. Although very fast, he was still hit, but he was still the winner. In the end, that day they had a small party after knowing Arthur's terrible potential. His father's friend called for Arthur's father to enroll him in Cyrus Academy, which is the most prestigious magic academy on this planet, but he is only 8 years old. And as for tuition fees, they will sponsor Arthur. Not only that, he also has a wide relationship. Many times doing business with the director of Sirius Academy, so joining the academy should not be a problem, but Arthur refused him because he had just reunited with his family and did not want to leave right now. The next morning Sayavi woke him up very early, but it was too smelly, so both of them had to take a bath then go sightseeing in the city. Here indeed is prosperous. There are many items he has never seen before. He is also very curious about those balls. They are magic cores extracted from mana beasts to increase strength. Although the effect between different cores will be very different, it takes several hundred gold bars to buy it, like gambling, but if lucky you will get a core containing beast power. In addition, our Healthy Auction House receives a large number of beast cores and even newborn beast cores. You can see them if you have a chance next time. They went to the hair salon wanting to design a great head for him, but this is not a place for children. The shopkeeper even looked down on him, calling him to leave. These are not toy swords. His hand was directly thrown away by him. This guy wanted to rush over to cause trouble, but seeing that he was from healthy family, he started to shrink immediately, kneeling down begging. When returning home, Uncle Vincent said someone wanted to meet him. She was Good Kai, founder and operator of Cyrus Academy. Cyrus Academy, an organization praised as the most solemn place for anyone with power wanting to become a wizard with both family background and talent, is a place that produces acclaimed scholars. Groups, group leaders, royal knights and armies, anyone who has a great influence on this world, all have connections with Cyrus Academy. That is the reputation that this school has achieved, solid and unique like a Titan wall. Compared to other academies on this planet, she raised her hand to greet him, as if he didn't know what to do. Should he kiss the hand of an old woman? His mother immediately ran over and apologized that the little boy had just returned from the forest, so he still didn't know the usual rules. I don't usually visit a potential student's home, but Vincent piqued my curiosity when he was sure that a genius was living in his house. She wanted to test him, but he was still hungry and hadn't eaten anything yet. She also noticed Sayavi. Its appearance is very cute, never seen before. He had to pretend for a while to be able to pass. The two will fight each other because she doesn't use a wand, so he won't use weapons either. Arthur released his power, the floor tiles were crushed, he stepped on it once, all the rocks shattered and flew up. Everyone was shocked at this moment. Next, using his foot to kick, flying it like bullets towards the principal. She used wind magic to create a tornado blocking everything, but wind magic he also has. Arthur gathered into his hand like a drill and rushed over but was knocked away by her. He used the wind to orient himself, then stopped the rocks in the air to use as a stepping stone. Once again attacking with terrifying speed but still unable to break her wind magic while releasing 4 tornadoes to attack. Arthur shattered them, but his clothes were also torn apart quite a bit. She was also very impressed with the performance just now, summarizing that magic and combat skills can be accepted, only a bit overconfident. The final test also began as soon as she pointed her finger. He could feel a terrible headache. This is sound magic. He passed this test with this talent she will personally teach him. His father at this moment came over surprised and asked, "How can you use gas and earth elements proficiently? You know, yesterday was still using lightning and fire until now everyone knew he could control 4 types of elements." Surprised yet the old lady almost fainted, then she released it to block the sound to talk privately with Arthur. Actually, he exposed his strength because he wanted 2 things from you, which is strength and power, to ensure his family's safety before he is strong enough to ensure it himself. Then not only joining your academy, I also accept being your maintenance object. She also had to be surprised even the king and queen of Sapin did not dare to make one-sided conditions with me. So you think I will consider publicly associating with a green-nosed kid? But he still hasn't decided to join the academy. He wants to become an explorer until he is 11 years old, joining like normal children. There are still 3 years until then. Of course this has been fiercely opposed by his mother. She doesn't want to leave her son again, but after hearing that he wants to know more, explore more about this world, then mom has to accept. Anyway, I can't keep him by my side forever. After a lively conversation they finally decided to let him go, but every month will come back once or after each mission. Sister also ran over crying, "Brother and sister no longer stay playing with me, brother no longer loves me." Arthur had to coax with dad. He also decided to write letters to his former teammates sending him there. They are very reliable. After a while he talked with Uncle Vincent. He was under pressure, feeling like talking to a king is very different from when he was with his family. Maybe this is his true demeanor. Arthur wants him to help him get a cloak, a sword, and a mask that can hide his voice. He agreed. Arthur was also very happy, and even said that he had no money so he would pay with something else. Deservedly, he wants to awaken strength for Lilia and his sister by doing so. His daughter can easily join Cyrus Academy. Everyone also went shopping and returned, hearing that he had a way to help Lilia become a wizard, immediately happy. Her mother thought it was just a joke, but Arthur affirmed it like a nail. Then they went to the living room. Arthur instructed the 2 sisters on how to breathe. Inhale slowly from the nose until you can't inhale anymore, then when you can't inhale anymore, open your mouth and try to inhale again. Then exhale in small increments about 15 times. Do it again while closing your eyes until you see bright spots floating in the darkness. His sister quickly saw them, but after she lost focus, the bright spots disappeared again, and Lilia next to her still couldn't see them, so she was very worried. At this time, Arthur had to use mana to help them feel them, then called them to gather the bright spots in one place. The training made the 3 of them very tired, but there were also some results. Lilia's parents were overjoyed when they learned that their daughter could also become a wizard. They are just ordinary people and have been looking forward to this. Her mother even ran over to apologize for doubting him before, and her father cried with joy. In the following days, every morning he helped the 2 of them get closer to awakening while training hard. Life was peaceful and full of laughter. 2 months later Sayavi had grown much bigger but always wanted to perch on his shoulder. If it weighs several tons later it will be ruined. Today is the day his father's former teammates come to visit Angela. Still the same, almost suffocating him with a hug. Anything too big is not good. Everyone cried when they saw Arthur still alive. This is truly a miracle, and this time they came here because of Healthy Auction House's 15th anniversary celebration. They will keep this place safe. Everyone is also dressed up ready to attend the anniversary celebration. Let's all go. After hearing Arthur's story, everyone had to be amazed. Just a 5-year-old boy could go through so much very quickly. They arrived at the Healthy Auction House. This place is indeed very noble. Not only is it a congratulatory ceremony but also an opportunity to see and perhaps buy priceless artifacts stored and protected for this grand ceremony. Although he had been in Tesla's palace, he was still overwhelmed by the luxury of this place. They entered the VIP room on the highest floor. After a while VIP guests arrived. It was King Brand and Queen. Besides there were princesses and princes. The king saw some people here looking at Vincent, questioning. "We didn't know we would share this space with some guests," Vincent said. "I remember you once said you wanted to meet my family last time they were here, so I thought today would be a good day." He so slowly introduced everyone to the king. The queen was also very friendly with them. She saw the little dragon and was very interested. "You are very lucky. Even newborn beasts are very difficult to tame, but it seems very obedient." He also said that they could communicate through thoughts. Suddenly the wizard panicked and shouted, "You mean you have an equal contract with this man, a beast now?" Then ran over wanting to examine Sayavi carefully. Fortunately there was a king blocking it. Arthur then realized that the man just now had no good intentions. He should be wary of him. The anniversary ceremony also officially began. This luxurious atmosphere reminded Arthur of his previous life. He even secretly had a few drinks to relieve his sorrow. Looking at the queen, he could tell that she was carrying a wand, a wizard, but he couldn't feel her mana. The reason is because she is wearing something to hide her strength, or maybe she is too strong for him to feel. And also, he wasn't interested in the beautiful girls here, probably because they were the same age as his mother. Anyway, he was too young to think about dating someone. The next item is a short sword, forged by an expert with elemental fire. Uncle Vincent called him. If necessary he would keep it, but Arthur wanted something normal. Only 50 gold was too expensive. That much could provide for a normal family for 250 times. He also said that he had found a cloak from a night leopard. For him it could even hide his breath. The items auctioned later became even more valuable. The king himself auctioned off a few things. Just then he noticed that the little dragon was nowhere to be seen. Lilia and his sister were also not there. Suddenly he heard its cry, and it turned out that the wizard was trying to catch it. He couldn't directly intervene because he was the royal wizard, so he could only call the little dragon back to him, and the man opened his mouth again. "A rustic kid, what's worthy of going with a man, a beast especially like that? What are you talking about?" He even called the little dragon his. Arthur at this moment couldn't hold back his anger, wanting to smash him right away. Immediately terrible murderous intent was released, causing everyone to panic. Ordinary people basically couldn't breathe. The king and royal guards immediately became alert. They didn't know that the terrible murderous intent was emitted by a kid under 10 years old. His father and everyone else panicked and rushed in here, but it seemed like nothing had happened. The security team only found an intruder. It seemed like Arthur had to thank him then. "Who told you to be so unlucky?" The program continued with a world lion cub. Its price of course was not low. The king finally offered 1,000 gold. No one dared to compete. He took it as a gift for the prince, and the auction was about to end. The royal wizard then reported something to the king, probably related to Arthur. Seeing Arthur also looking for a sword, the king then suggested the prince is also learning swordsmanship and wants to fight a bit. He had to tactfully refuse. "I am very honored, but swordsmanship is just my hobby, your majesty. How can I be like your son?" His father also came over to greet the king and immediately said, "You see, Shabation has been a royal guard for many years, helping our family many times for his contributions to us. In this country we feel we should reward him, and it seems like he likes your son's beast." This is clearly trying to rob Arthur, who is very angry. His father just looked at him and realized he had to apologize to the king because the boy had gone through so many scary things. When he was young he would decide this himself. The king at this moment saw Arthur's cold eyes. "That kid," shouted, "didn't your parents teach you not to look directly into your superior's eyes?" He wished he could deal with it. "Old man, here like people in front of me is the king. Must calm down or your family will be in danger." Then directly refused. "Even the greatest sword cannot replace Sayavi. It is priceless to me." He didn't give up. He wanted to exchange the world lion he had just bought for Sayavi, but was firmly rejected by Arthur. He asked me one last time, "Do you want to have it?" I had to be careful to answer. He asked me 3 times and I refused all 3 times, and it seems that his self-esteem does not accept my refusals. He does not understand the weight of what he is asking for, so I hope my question will clarify that. How much will he accept to sell his son and daughter? "Your Majesty, gather." Everyone was dumbfounded. The dog wizard had to signal the knight to attack him, but was dodged by Arthur and punched him into a coma. At this time he had to take action directly. No matter how reprimanded, he knew Sayavi's potential would definitely surpass a rank at all costs. Everyone at this moment was frozen and he couldn't even chant a spell just seeing Arthur's eyes become cold. He won't be able to use it in front of him. He broke one of his legs with terrifying speed and then screamed in agony, but no one came to help him. Everyone was frozen. It could also be seen that the shadow of Mrs. Syria along with his threat while time continued. Arthur was lying on the ground as if injured, and that dog wizard's leg was also broken, frantically screaming for his life. No one understood what had happened to him. Arthur's father hurriedly took him to his mother for treatment. She cried non-stop when her son was beaten out. It wasn't until that night that he woke up. This time he went a little overboard. He used the time-stopping skill after unlocking the skill obtained from the dragon's will. With it, he has the ability to temporarily separate himself from the flow of time, but everything has its price. Despite years of training, he could only use it for a few seconds without reaction. This time he used it for too long, so he passed out. So his father is also dealing with everything with the royal representative. Arthur immediately came here, making his father happy. The royal spokesman threw us a few coins as spiritual compensation from the king and said that everything was just a small accident. This is unacceptable. Because of it Arthur almost lost his life, but to end things quickly here Arthur agreed. His mother also asked the wizard. When he woke up he insisted that Arthur was the one who caused it, but everyone saw him as hallucinating. They didn't see everything happening. Finally had to change for the knight and wizard conflicting with each other. Really fake. His father didn't even punish him for being rude to the king, even calling him a good punch. That's my son indeed. When the whole world turns its back on us, family is the most precious thing. Arthur also got the necessary equipment to become an adventurer, by then disgusted with anyone who touched everything without paying attention to identity. The next day, while everyone didn't know who to choose as Arthur's escort, Jasmine volunteered. When they returned home, Lilia was practicing on her own. Her sister saw her pouting at her sister practicing without inviting me. Looking at them, they seem to have recovered very quickly and can awaken their mana core. He and his father went to the auction room to look for a sword. Uncle Vision kindly led Arthur into the warehouse where there were a lot of swords, but none of them were soulful. Really crappy. Then Sayavi sneaked into the pile of stuff piled up as if it had found something, then pulled out a black stick. Inside turned out to be a good sword, but it was too heavy to pull out of its sheath. He tried everything, even transmitting mana or various elements into it, but it still didn't budge. At this time he noticed the dragon hair on his hand, then tried to use the power of the dragon's will to pull it out again. Then the sword could be pulled out of its sheath. It was transparent blue, but it was also too heavy. With his body it was a bit uncomfortable. There was something written on its body. As soon as he read it, suddenly the sword flattened in his hand, blood fell down and was immediately absorbed by it. At this time Arthur picked it up again and the weight and balance had changed, very suitable for him. This sword is also too fake. Seeing everyone coming, he also had to randomly pick one. It had been auctioned off at small auctions many times, but no one had bought it yet. But after his father checked, it seemed like its quality was too crappy. He carefully asked about the remaining black stick, and he had to say he found it. It's quite heavy and strong. Maybe using it for training will be okay. Uncle Vincent checked it out once. One of our blacksmiths told me a rather strange story that some old man threw this stick and muttering about no one being worthy. We've had quite a few people test check it to prevent leaks, and sir, it's just a sturdy but quite strange stick. Finally, under Arthur's pleading eyes, he also agreed to give it to him. The next day was Arthur's 9th birthday. Everyone prepared a lavish birthday party for him. They all enjoyed it together, and most importantly, the gift-giving segment. The gift from his parents was a pair of gloves made by his parents themselves, which could heal wounds every time he went on a mission. Next is Uncle Vincent. His family's gift is a pair of rings, one for Mom and one for him. As long as Arthur wears this ring, the stone on his ring will light up if Arthur's mana level drops to a dangerous level. His friends also gave gifts, which were a roll of paper transmission, super expensive. With it they could communicate with each other by transmitting mana into it like texting, but it could only be used once, then turned into dust. The next morning he was ready to leave before everyone said goodbye to him, but tears couldn't help but fall down. His sister cried and refused. He had to specially coax her. Outside, Jasmine was waiting. Mask already on the next journey began. They went to the Adventurers Guild to register as members, and Sayavi also changed shape a little smaller so as not to attract attention. They went to the reception desk. Jasmine directly called for sponsoring him for rank testing. Because of sponsorship, his strength will be pushed up first so as not to wait long. Everyone also paid attention to his physique, clearly a kid, but wearing a mask mysteriously. The receptionist went in directly to announce adventurer rank. Asmon Flames World has a request to sponsor this gentleman here for a rank test. Because of sponsorship, I will skip those steps. You just need to do a duel with one of our test examiners. And Arthur also took a fake name note to address him. Just shaking hands, both could feel each other's strength very strongly. He also noticed that the family Wood clan seemed very respected. He didn't understand why Jasmine agreed to go with him where the test took place. A battle was also taking place. In the end, the examiner received all the criticism. He was 35 years old and his mana core had only reached the dark orange stage. Usually people like this would be put in rank E, but because he had a good fire element, he was promoted to rank D. The next person to be tested was a rather clumsy girl named Dian, 18 years old, water system wizard, dark orange mana core. Don't judge her by her appearance. Her strength and proficiency in water magic surprised everyone. In the end, there was an evaluation. Her control was quite good and the final spell chain was quite standard. She was a bit overconfident and didn't prepare any other defense measures. But overall, she controlled mana quite skillfully and agilely, achieving rank C. The next person is Elizagai. This guy is very confident, even calling for him to be ranked A right away without testing. He is only 11 years old, light orange mana core fire system, seems to be a genius, so he can be arrogant like that, arrogant attitude making the test sister also hot as a Chi-Lin pot. He immediately released a large fire guard, a genius of the Wiki's family, but in the blink of an eye he was extinguished by that sister with earth magic. But this guy is not that simple. He even says, I once heard that no examiner has ever been injured while testing adventurers. Maybe she will be the first. Countless fireballs appeared from nowhere, turning her hot. It exploded simultaneously. Like this section is also a bit nosed and finally saved by her not having to hit her own move. She carefully evaluated his rare mana quantity and ability to learn difficult fire system spells. Proved his potential. He then sneaked in, calling the test not over yet. Luckily the warrior stopped him in time. In the end this guy also got rank B, making him very angry. Weak and thin. The next test turn is Arthur. He was carefully thinking that facing that warrior guy was a bit tough. He had years of training and experience using swords and those suspicious and agile movements, but also very tight in defense because it's a special case. So they don't know any information about him. The test warrior at this moment felt a terrible oppression from Arthur. Clearly this is not a level he can handle. The manager here personally tested Arthur. His rank is a close to S highest. Even he had to personally test to know how strong Arthur was, and he at this moment was not afraid but even more excited. This is battle armor. His speed is very fast, making him overwhelmed, but Arthur's reaction speed is also super fast, dodging and even creating wounds on his face. The two fought fiercely, his speed getting faster and faster, causing Arthur to face countless disadvantages. His body became harder after merging with serious dragon wool, but still weaker than a veteran warrior, one whose body has been reinforced and covered with a thick layer of mana. Although he had trained a lot, he still wasn't completely used to this small body. He started to get serious at that moment. His body started moving on its own to escape. He shot terrible speed wind bullets at him. If hit once, it would burst right away. Arthur had to use his fastest speed to approach, then triggered fire magic to attack. His sword clashed with the other person, causing a tremendous shock that shook the place. At this time, he felt worried. Clearly he was rank A, he couldn't lose to a kid. He chanted faster and faster, constantly attacking him. This was trying to make him use his trump card. Arthur also followed his intention, rushing at a terrifying speed at such a close distance. He couldn't defend himself. His self-esteem didn't allow himself to lose, releasing all his mana to blow him away. At this time, Arthur had to release light magic to increase speed, intending to make a bloodless move with him, but he stopped the fight. I was a bit overzealous for a moment, trying to test your limits. I apologize. It seems that you are determined to hide your true ability until the end. I can only assume that you want to be ranked low, rank B. Everyone was also surprised. So strong, just rank B. Arthur also had no opinion. The Adventurers Guild people also didn't know what was going on. Going to find the manager to ask, "Sir, what's going on?" Today there are more rank B adventurers than the total number in 4 months. And that's not to mention all 3 of them look like kids, light orange at only 11 years old, something humanity has never had before. He only said now the ban on elves and dwarves becoming adventurers in the kingdom has been lifted in preparation for the upcoming 3 Kingdoms tournament. And among the recent contestants there are a few Lucas players who carry half-elf blood, but their birth dates have been hidden by their clan. The Wiki's clan has always had a bad reputation for using many unethical methods to create outstanding generations for their clan. Elizagli, on the other hand, is a mystery. According to the documents, his origin is hidden, but he was raised by dwarves since he was young. He was sent as one of the representatives from the dwarf kingdom to assimilate with the human kingdom. And the reason he was given rank B was because he only awakened a few months ago but already had dark red. As for the masked guy today, they have no information about him, only knowing that the person behind his protection is Jasmine of the Family World clan, famous for giving birth and training the strongest fire system wizards of the kingdom. Although the manager didn't say it, the strongest among them was Arthur's very sharp and effective swordsmanship, and it seemed like he wasn't used to that body yet. He also didn't know how terrifying he could be when he grew up. While Princess Tesla was missing Arthur wherever she looked, his hateful face appeared even more through the prophet. She could also see that he had reunited with his family and there was a girl. Accordingly, it was what Tesla cared about most. Dare to steal her husband. Grandpa at this time also came here to give her good news that she will have a chance to study with Arthur at the same school. Her face changed 190 degrees, full of eagerness. It turned out that he was also acquainted with Cyrus, the principal of the academy. She bragged about finding a 4-element genius without knowing that it was him who taught Arthur. And this matter also needs more careful discussion between kingdoms. What she needs to do is be strong. At the same time, Arthur had received his fake adventure card. Today's match with Caspian made him realize a few things. He had spent too much time adjusting and getting used to the new magic system of this world. But he forgot what he did best in his previous life, which was using the sword. Just then, Arthur hit the B-ranked guy wearing glasses without checking. The arrogant Lakos also came to the meeting, and he even acted smug, just because he was ranked with me. Even within the same rank, there are different levels, and you commoners must be the lowest level. Arthur didn't care, because the arrogant will die soon. Meanwhile, Jasmine had already found a mission, and right after that, they set off. They went to the monster forest, but this place was too boring. Most of the safe areas had been explored by adventurers, a training ground for rookies, next to a low-ranked guy being beaten by a small weasel for breaking his shirt. And little dragon Syavi also noticed the nearby monsters. It wanted to eat them to become stronger. He also let it go wild. Anyway, with the contract they could feel each other. At this time they also had to speed up to get to the next stop before dark. Arthur was also worried about Syavi. This must be the feeling of a parent when their child first goes far away. A while later at the rest stop, he was exhausted from keeping up with Jasmine's pace. Fortunately, Syria taught him transportation skills. She was quite impressed with him, even though he had adjusted his speed slower. She even thought they would have to stop several times. Syavi was also sending him information. It was hunting very happily. He also asked her why she became an adventurer. At this time Jasmine seemed to hesitate, not wanting to answer, but then she said she wanted to escape from the Family World clan, one of the clans that contributed the most in the war against the fairy race. They were quite proud of that because fire is considered one of the strongest elements, so when she awakened earlier than all her siblings. Her parents had high expectations for her, but when all tests showed that she was not suitable for the harmonious element system, they began to see her as redundant. Arthur shouted out that they were stupid not having any element ranked above any element at all. They completely depended on how wizards operated it. Jasmine then laughed heartily at this moment, knowing that she was only 24 years old and already owned a thick gold core, yet still being ostracized for owning a wind system, which was unfair. But she had long accepted it. In fact, people always try to make themselves superior even if they say so, but she is always cold and fragile. Jasmine also grabbed his hand to heat water, put out the fire until it was time to go to bed. Then early the next morning, he felt something heavy on his body, thinking it was Syria, but as soon as he opened his eyes, oh my God, Jasmine had been up very early grilling fish for breakfast. At this time, he also called the little dragon back for breakfast, but it said it already had. It turned out that the monster that had just scared him had been dealt with by it. Then Jasmine called for a duel with him here. While observing, she realized his fighting style, looking a bit stiff, as if he knew what to do, but his body couldn't keep up. First of all, she needs to know his physical limits before doing any mission. So limit the use of mana and only use it to strengthen the blade. Moreover, Jasmine also told him to use the remaining black sword. There is no reason for him to carry it without doing anything. The two were ready to fight. Fighting her made him realize that he was too confident with the swordsmanship he got from his previous life, so he didn't practice it diligently, but was only obsessed with magic. He relied too much on it. It simply hit its limitations and shortcomings very quickly. He was beaten up because of weak physical strength and somewhat stiff movement. But in return, swordsmanship skills saved him. His intuition was truly terrifying. What needs to be done now is to focus on sword fighting without mana to hone the body. As soon as she heard this, she immediately panicked. If not using mana, overcoming dungeons would be very difficult. Even with that experience, it would take decades for warriors to fully master swordsmanship. He confidently said that in just 2 years, he could definitely do it. Very quickly 2 years passed at a beer pub. Some adventurer uncles were buzzing discussing rumors. Recently a masked swordsman was very famous. Some people said he single-handedly cleared a dungeon. How could that be possible? Even B-ranked wizards couldn't do that. Even if it was a low-ranked dungeon, a kid couldn't do it either. Not only that, there are rumors that he has reached a rank, and if that is true then he is the fastest A ranker in just 2 years. At this moment someone walked in, causing everyone to freeze. Isn't that our Arthur? Thomas, B-ranked veteran, wanted to challenge him to erase those false rumors. This guy immediately got angry and the attack shook him terribly. Everyone panicked and smoke dissipated. Clearly this guy missed. Then even more angry rushed up to attack him but couldn't hit him again and returned a slash. This guy's hand was painfully disabled and screamed. By then everyone could feel the tremendous pressure from him. Fortunately he didn't want to take his life. If he didn't die then he died. He and Jasmine continued on their way. Arthur still often wrote letters home. He still couldn't believe Lilia had awakened her mana core. Uncle Vincent Strait was very excited but didn't pay too much attention to hiring a tutor for Lilia. He and Jasmine are still fine and hope parents don't worry. Arthur has broken through the orange phase. Jasmine is still helping him adjust and teaching him what she knows about wind magic. Meanwhile, he has helped her improve her sword skills. This will be his last adventure before entering Crush Academy in a few weeks. And Sayavi didn't go with them this time. The little dragon still refused to see them, saying it wasn't ready, making him a little confused. Perhaps he wants to become as strong as possible before he starts school this time. Joining the dungeon conquest there are a few more people. Surprisingly, the nobleman Lucas is also here. He is still arrogant, not beaten yet still not afraid here. In addition, their team also has a big uncle named Basun, an A-ranked gold core element enhancer. And Lucas is also like his A-ranked gold core fire cryo system. Water element enhancer is a true tanker. Elissima, A-ranked orange core wizard. Oliver, A-ranked, is a healing wizard, and Samantha, an A-ranked wizard. Finally, Braum, A-ranked enhancer specializing in fire element pale gold core. He is also the captain of the outside team. Jasmine has also been promoted to a rank while Arthur is a rank. The captain saw that they were still wearing their gear and asked if they didn't have a space ring. The guy wearing glasses let them borrow it for easier movement and combat. Space rings are luxury items. One costs gold coins. Poor people like him naturally don't have. The guy wearing glasses turned red like a girl, making everyone confused. The glasses-wearing fairies automatically asked if it was dangerous. Everyone was ready to enter the first floor of the dungeon but didn't see any monsters. Strange as when looking up above the captain had to panic that it was falling demons. The team set up SP combat formation. Healing blood will be wrapped in the middle. The captain told everyone not to kill them to save energy, but Lucas liked to show off shooting fire tornadoes to burn them all. He was then grabbed by the captain and scolded in the dungeon not to waste mana unnecessarily. This dungeon is notorious for its mysterious creatures escaping from death's claws and cannot be completely eradicated. They just need to run fast to get away from it, and above all they don't have mana cores for adventurers. If you can take 10 names of this dungeon, it's a cruel tomb. The captain had marked the secret entrance on his previous exploration, which was also why everyone came here. Inside it was very damp. Suddenly Arthur rushed in and slashed something. It turned out to be a trap in the dungeon that they didn't have before. Arthur carefully observed this. Clearly not a trap but a mana monster. Everyone must be vigilant. Finally they arrived, but here it was really hot, not like before, clearly not normal heat but tremendous pressure from inside. They were suddenly attacked by a giant earthworm tanker who timely used water magic to protect everyone, but it seemed not aimed at them. The SP healer at this time went forward on his own to quickly get the artifact. Suddenly he called Lucas to use a heat shield, then ran at top speed to the captain, pulling him back. Smoke dissipated the scene in front of everyone, shocked heavily. The SP healer only left dry bones. Arthur then went to him, picked up the blue crystal and threw it to his sister. The wizard told her to put it on her staff to increase her strength. He advised everyone to leave this place, although the captain did not want to, but in order to preserve the life of the whole team there was no other choice. But the earthworm blocked their way out. They all had to fight together, but it was too tough, not even breathing at all. At this time Luca stood as if waiting for her husband. He was scared. Right now Arthur's speed was lightning fast. A sword rushed up and hit its mouth. Jasmine also hit it with a painful blow. Luca still stood there dumbfoundedly. Monster wanted to run away. They didn't chase, but left at this time. The next explosion was coming. It turned out that Worm was just stalling, using the mysterious explosion here to kill them. Luca had been saved by him, but to protect the female wizard, Captain Bra lost an arm. They had to use fire magic to burn his arm, not to lose too much blood. Just looking at it was painful. The situation of the whole team was very difficult. The captain was seriously injured. At this time, the muscular uncle gave his bread to Arthur. This is how he reduces stress every time he goes on a dungeon expedition. Inside there is also cheese. When heated it looks delicious. His fiancée personally created this recipe. Through words one can know how desperate they are in this situation. Next to Lucas, still scolding the captain, the only reason he joined everyone was because the leader was a veteran AA-ranked wizard. Now he himself is injured. SP healer is also gone. The captain of course did not give up. You dare complain after you dropped your weapon like an idiot and then had to rely on others to save you. I had to protect Samantha, something I didn't have to do if you were alert and reacted in time to create a barrier. It wasn't until Arthur stepped in that the two stopped. Lucas stopped pretending to be crazy. You are now just a burden. He couldn't say anything and left, then turned to Brown. He had to decide for himself whether or not to continue. They had no other choice. He chose to continue, and this would be the last time exploring this dungeon. Even though he was injured, he was AA ranked and would not hinder everyone before. The captain also gave way to Arthur. They came before a tunnel, but it was blocked clearly. Last time here it wasn't like that. The muscular uncle wanted to rush up and break it, but it didn't work. Then combined with Jasmine they finally broke the door. The scene inside made everyone dumbfounded. Here there were trees with flowers and leaves. They will not stop here. It is too strange. A danger can come at any time. He felt something very dangerous here. Everyone now became even more strange, constantly seeing their closest people. Then ran straight into the smoke inside. It made everyone fall into an illusion. He then called Samantha to use a barrier for defense. She was also curious about who the tanker uncle called her. She was his fiancée, but she died in a dungeon. They themselves cremated her by hand. But at that moment Jasmine also saw her father smiling at her. That's impossible, so she realized it was just an illusion. Then she used a spell to create a path to find the uncle. As soon as the smoke cleared in front of them there were many vines. They didn't even shake before that blow. Luca now had to use fire magic to burn them, but his spell was also useless. Arthur had to fight with everyone to break the siege. However, no matter how they fought they still recovered as before. Then they thought that they could resist fire thanks to moisture inside. Meanwhile Brown was going crazy attacking. He was an A-ranked enhancer and wouldn't lose to these vines. Right now his hand was wrapped by vines, quickly immobilized. Fortunately Arthur intervened in time, otherwise it would be over. Then turned around and scolded him. Even if you don't need your life, we need you right now, so act and think carefully a little bit. Next, Luca had prepared his strongest spell, constantly releasing fire power attacking vines. Finally it was burned down.